Happy Easter, everybody. Linda and Sterling here.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Easter, and also happy Passover as well. I think it's the last day of Passover today. Yeah.
Everybody. And what are you guys doing? You cooking something good?
We probably will. Yeah, a little more spontaneous. So we'll figure it all out as we go. We kind of like to do it that way rather than a week of planning.
Right. Exactly. So
yeah.
Anyway, what time do you want me there?
There you go. As soon as you can get down here.
I got to catch a plane first.
There you go.
Okay, so Sterling, I heard people are going crazy for Dead Famous.
They are, yeah. I thought it'd be a good idea just to highlight the fact that our next Dead Famous show with Andrea from Lilac Lantern will be Friday, April 16th, and there'll be a recorded show. So after it's recorded, we'll post it up on my channel. But we've had actually an overwhelming response. I think well over 1,000 recommendations for Dead Famous, kind of dead Hollywood people, even from the music industry. Yes. So we'll do a list, and I think we'll do it like last time. We'll do 4 people each, so 12 individuals for the show. But well, thanks for everybody for all the interest, and we'll get it done on April 16th.
2 thumbs up, you guys. And then the next one will be Andrea. She'll do it on her show.
It will be.
We'll go back to mine because obviously there's a huge interest in this. So.
And we may increase the cycle. So maybe we do it once every 2 weeks or something like that. We'll see. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we have our questions from everyone. From the other side, oh, I like this. From the other side, does Jesus have a message for us?
He does, and this is a very, important time of the year, right? I think even on your channel, Linda, I think you had communicated with him yesterday. I had communicated yesterday with him, and there were no less than like 7 archangels around him at the time. And what's interesting was he said, now is the time, what the message he gave me directly was, now is the time for like monumental change on the earth and in the universe. Like this is a time of transformation. So unlike any other, and I think we've seen that. But he also wanted to highlight the fact that everybody plays a role in it, and we all need to stand kind of in love and all kind of, push love forward, because everybody's alike. We're all aligned to the one force. And he said that to me like 3 times. We are all one, we're all alike, and we're all aligned to the one force. And that's a message sometimes a lot of people in society forget, right? When you look at races and things going on, we're all one. We're all connected to the one force. So that was the biggest thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. On the other side, do spirits and spiritual leaders have a sense of humor?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, my group of guides and angels all have a big sense of humor. My wife will say all the time, she'll ask a question, they'll say something a little snarky sometimes. Yes. So they have a little sense of humor.
A dry sense of humor too.
Yeah. And, but by the way, humor and laughter raises your vibrational energy. So it's all connected with love in the universe. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I know though, the guy that talks in my ear, the one that told me to do YouTube, he's not very humorous. He seems kind of serious, but the other ones have funny things to say. So, okay. Will the new administration change the 3 credit systems and have a national one? Oh, that's a good question.
I get an absolutely yes on that. And I think that the groundwork will get laid. I think they've already started that combination of the 3 credit bureau system into one. But here's what I get on that. It's going to make great progress during the first 4-year term of Biden. And one of the reasons for that is that they're going to do things that are going to help a lot of people that got financially hurt during the pandemic. So it's all the more important that everybody gets treated fairly, that even they do some things statistically where they discount like 2020, because a lot of people had major credit problems, for example, in 2020. Exactly. So why wipe out millions of people credit? So there'll be like a waiting system in the new system. So I see all that happening in a way that really treats 2020 very fairly and gets everybody kind of back on the right level playing field. Yeah, with one bureau. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That Credit Karma, you can go on these sites. Mm-hmm. It's night and day. By the way, anybody uses Credit Karma? Carol wanted to buy something, and she was saying Credit Karma says I'm right 2 points below what I need. And I said, you know what? Don't listen to them. Go ahead and apply, because the main credit people, she was higher, just like I told her. So don't go by Credit Karma. I just want y'all to know. But it's so funny because even if you make a purchase, or I try not to use my credit cards. When you do, it drops your score. Even though you're not over, or you're not, it's so weird. They'll change it. That's wonderful. Will the God, these are good questions. Will the investigation into Matt Gaetz result in convictions?
Yeah, it will. And you know what? For some reason, I pick up like 3 different convictions. So like whether it's like there's something to do with, let's say, money, money laundering, sex trafficking, and something else going on. So it's like 3 levels of conviction there. And I also get that it's going to be a rather complex case because it's going to involve a lot of other like congressional people. So there's like this whole big merry-go-round of like, we have 3 cases, we have 3 convictions. Okay, we'll lower that conviction if you spill the beans on these other people. So yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, so that Green guy, I guess, is singing. Is his name Green? It's the guy from Florida that the reason this all started. He was stealing people's IDs, and
right.
He was some tax person, and he ended up making his office. Anyway, but okay, good. Green is spilling. So that's interesting. The next question is, are the Republicans involved in the Gaetz scandal? Are there other Republicans involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I get on that because there's a whole web. There's a web of interactions around all of that, quote unquote, sex trafficking, money movement. Absolutely. There's a whole web. It involves a lot of individuals. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Okay. Well, somebody on MSNBC, they were saying, well, why isn't anybody coming out and standing up for him? They're not saying he's no good, but they're not standing up. And they said he's actually one of the least liked congressmen in office.
Right. I think they refer to that as like radio silence.
Yes,
radio
exactly.
Silence. Yeah.
Okay. Will Chauvin be found guilty? George Floyd.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I get on that is absolutely he will, because it looks like the case is going to swing on like intent, like so the intent to harm or like intent to kill, right? The techniques that were used, as opposed to, I think right now they're trying to litigate and say that there was something that George Floyd, or condition he had, whether it was under drugs or a heart problem or something that caused it. But what they're telling me is it's going to be on the intent of that officer that's going to swing the case, and it's going to result in some prison time. Absolutely.
I saw that. I saw him sitting there, and I saw him being found. And what also is, sure, he had issues, but that wasn't reason. That guy had no right to issue a death sentence.
Yeah, for me, I keep getting, my guides are telling me it's all going to swing on the intent of that officer, like intended to harm, intended to kill.
Well, so one of the lieutenants said when he was handcuffed, once he's handcuffed, he had no right, and he's on the ground, he had no right to hold him with his neck.
Right, absolutely. By the way, I pick up something else here.
What?
It refers to like a dozen years. So I don't know. I'm not sure if he gets, I don't know, a 20 or 25-year sentence, but then he's up for parole or review in 12 years. But they just threw that at me, something about a 12-year review or something. So
that's interesting. That's great. Yeah. I picked up 10, but it could be the amount of time he actually serves. But yeah, I saw him being found guilty, and I saw that it does satisfy, but not completely.
Right.
So why do orbs appear, and what do they search for?
Well, orbs are great. If you ever witness orbs, it's wonderful. Most often they're benevolent energy. It's either a family member, somebody very friendly, a friendly spirit, a guide. Most of the time orbs are very friendly energy, but my understanding, my guides tell me it takes less energy to appear as an orb to us than it does a full manifestation, right? So it's easier for spirits to move around and appear as an orb.
Yeah. Cool. Is empathy a personality trait that you carry from one life to the next, or is it a skill you can opt out into or out of each incarnation? God, these are fantastic questions.
Yeah. What I get on that is as a baseline, every individual comes into this world with empathy. The key is to what level. So you may have hardly any empathy or a great deal of empathy. So it's not that it's a life choice. It's almost part of a skill set you come in. But then the degree of which empathy and then how you use it is the varying ability. So I guess you don't select out of it, I think was kind of the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, like, it's hard to imagine that Trump would have that, but I imagine he did when he was little. But based on his upbringing, he kind of fell out of it.
Exactly. I'm absolutely sure that as a young child, he did have some level of empathy, but then grew out of it based on the way he was raised. Yeah.
Can you tell us if it's Alexei Navalny's chance of survival?
That's the Russian politician,
That's
right?
the gentleman that's in jail now in Russia.
Right. Came out against Putin.
Navalny.
Yeah, here's what I get on that. There's a whole lot of free will running around that situation, because I get it's like, so Putin, whether he gets medical attention or not, whether he needs medical attention right now. If he gets medical attention, he'll be around. If he doesn't, there's a problem there. But I also, and I heard this in the news, I'm getting this now psychically, is that if he goes on a hunger strike, that's a big free will decision that'll
Right.
take him out. So there's a bit of free will running around here. I feel he's going to make it. At least I hope that's the case. But boy, is it just a very tricky situation right now.
Right. I did a reading for my group the other day, and there definitely was major changes. Could even be death changes, but he sort of sacrificed himself.
That's the key. Is there's so much free will here. If he goes on a hunger strike, he just made the decision.
Yeah, he's on a hunger strike. But then again, they could force feed him and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, will there ever be a cure for PTSD?
What I get on that is that the way they'll define a cure is a little so a little bit of detail here. There'll be a massive cure for PTSD, but what it'll do is this cure that's coming up will actually reduce what I call the trigger factors. So it's like it won't erase the memory. You'll still have the memory, but it'll somehow erase the trigger factors that trigger all sorts of bad behavior, depression, and sometimes even suicide, right? So the treatment they come up with within 10 years here will retain the memory, but reduce the trigger factors. Yeah.
There's a lot of even young people have PT.
Right. And you can get it from all sorts of reasons. Childhood trauma, war.
How can we tell if we are light workers?
Well, it's pretty funny. My guy just said something. If you even have to ask that question, you probably are.
Right.
So, start off with. But right now, a large part of the planet, we are light workers. We all agree to be down here to help the Earth heal over the next 3 decades. But most everybody's a light worker down here. I guess that's a good question. I don't run into many that didn't choose to be down here at this time. But I guess that's the simple answer is if you have to ask about it, you most likely are. So.
Okay. Will marijuana be legalized federally? If so, when?
They're telling me that inside of about 3 years, there's going to be some major legislation, federal legislation on that. But one of the driving forces there, Steph, will be the extra taxes that'll be generated. Right. So it's going to kind of get swept up in an overall tax plan. So it's beneficial, but it's like, oh, and by the way, all the other federal taxes we get. So yeah, they tell me in about 3 years, big movement in that area. So for me, by the time you get like to the 4th year of the Biden term, it wouldn't surprise me if it's in the process of being fully legalized. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Biden's not really pro marijuana. I don't think he's into anybody serving any time, but yeah, he's from the old school. So maybe tax wise, he'll be for it.
It is. Yeah.
Are humans the only beings in our universe that have emotions, making us unique?
What I get on that is that no, actually, there's a lot of species, both on the planet and off the planet, so to speak, that do have feelings. So look, I think maybe when the inference is there about aliens, they feel a sense of loss. So if there's a loss among somebody that they know or are with within their family structure, they feel it. So the answer to that is that, all species, including humans, feel loss and have sensitivity. Yeah.
Do you see child trafficking and or young women as a huge underground organization suggested by this conspiracy theories? Are there many criminal activities engaged in this around the world?
So the subject there was like the extent of sex trafficking, and yeah. Well, it's prominent worldwide, absolutely. But where it comes home to roost, so to speak, for us kind of in the US, is a lot of what was going on around the Epstein organization. So there's a lot of things that we'll see come up into the public media around the Epstein organization, how he interacted with government and money laundering. So I guess the answer is yes.
Yes.
And for me, Epstein is probably one of the best examples when that comes out. Yeah.
Right. Can you look into cleanup? Now, I don't know what this is. Cleanup of the SSFL?
Santa Susana Field Laboratory.
Okay. And painted bear case situation on that land?
Yeah.
The Chumash and the environmentalists are at odds over it.
Yeah, that's in Southern California, that SSFL, that whole debacle. That's been in the news for a long time, actually. That's a 2-decade cleanup, because that's like a radioactive cleanup, and that's like a groundwater cleanup. So I get that's about a 2-decade cleanup in that whole thing. Now, as far as the painted caves go, it looks to me in the process of all of that, they'll protect them. But it's just a huge, very expensive, multi-billion-dollar expenditure to clean that up. So it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Okay. After they cross over, do people with hate issues suddenly understand that they were hurting others and were in the wrong?
Well, yeah. I mean, the answer, yes. During a life review, all those things come up, right? So everything you did on the planet comes up as a review, and a great example of that.
Feel it. Yeah.
Right. And Defending Your Life is a great movie that they have that life review in there. So Meryl Streep. So right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you review everything. Yeah.
Dan Fogelberg was one of the most underrated singer-songwriters of our generation. Does he have any messages for us?
A lot of sorrow around his passing and transition. But you know what? He spent a lot of time on this planet around trying to articulate people's feelings and love and interpersonal relationships. But for him, the biggest struggle for him was that exact thing. So the very things that he sung about, he had a big difficulty with, and that also created drug abuse. So major.
I didn't know he had drug abuse.
Major drug abuse, and so So I guess it's interesting how everybody's journey is multi-layered, but the very things he was successful at explaining to the world and singing about, he had difficulty with himself. Yeah.
Isn't that something? And so, because he was very sensitive, he got caught up in that life. Oh, I'm just looking at him now. He's good looking. He was born August 13th, 1951. So he was a Leo. So he was Zoom. And he died in 2007.
I did a project with him in, I think it was 85, in Franklin, Tennessee, at Franklin House. The album was High Country Snows.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I spent quite a bit of time with him.
Was he talented energetically? Could you tell he was doing the work he should be doing?
He was. So whenever he was in the studio, he was putting out his best. But then in all the after hours, so that facility, we had dinner and almost lived together. That was Franklin House. It was a studio. He was having struggles. You could tell he was having emotional struggles at the time. Yeah.
Oh, was he that good looking?
Well, I guess I'm not the one to rate looks, so to speak. That's a female. That'd be a female perspective. So, but
Oh,
yeah,
I mean,
I thought he was a great guy, but he had some struggles. So
he was a Leo, so he's probably really good looking. Probably just dynamic. Will Ghislaine Maxwell go to jail?
I mean, they're telling me she's definitely going to serve some time, but it's going to be a little bit of, because of all the bargaining she's doing with federal agents, it's going to be a little bit of what they call one of those executive prisons, or, you know, the ones where it's almost like where Martha Stewart went, right? So it's a prison, but you get a little more flexibility. But that's all part of what I feel she's going to be bargaining with the federal authorities. So yes.
Which means you might be giving them something in return.
Oh, yeah. She's what I get is, you know, she's singing like a jailbird right now.
Really? Because I know the courts haven't been, the courts are saying, nope, you got to stay in jail. And she's fighting them and begging them. And they're saying, nope.
Yeah, I guess it's all getting fed through her attorney. So.
Okay. Now, will Biden's new infrastructure proposal become law?
Yeah, absolutely. If they're referring to the $2 trillion deal that's on the table right now,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's the inference. And that's the whole basis of kind of this whole new Green Deal. Absolutely. Right. And I think you even communicated with the other side with Roosevelt, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's been coming to me for years when he said, yeah, Joe Biden is going to do what I did.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And this is really going to help. It's not like taking a chance and he's a failure. It really feels like it's going to help.
Yeah, and it's not just infrastructure. It's, you know, it's a lot of things to help people that need loans and small businesses.
Right. And here, let me tell you something else. Yeah. The Republicans that are moving against this, that were against this relief package, and this is actually going to work against them, because 70% of people are for this and they're saying no. And so if people are living a better life, what's their motivation to bring back in these Republicans? Exactly. That's my thought. That's what the hit I got. So
I agree.
Okay. Oh, do you see anything coming up next week?
Well, a continuation of the Green Deal we were just talking about. I see some major movement on that $2 trillion deal we were just talking about. I also see, you know, unfortunately, some more gun violence that's going to make its way into the news. Yeah, more gun violence. And also looks like somebody else is doing something else against the Capitol. So, you know, this last unfortunate incident that was this week, right? The person that ran the gates on the Capitol. So it looked like he had a death wish of some kind.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are probably the most important things coming up. Just a lot of movement on this new deal package, infrastructure deal. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any information that you guys want to share?
Yeah, and this goes back almost full circle the way we start off the show, but it's they're telling me make sure you take time to align yourself with the universe, you know, kind of stand in, walk in love, because we are all the same. We're all one in the one force. So the real simple message is take the time to align yourself with the universe. You know, we're all together. That's the biggest message. Yeah.
That's a very good for Easter too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your background, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I got that because, you know, that light was too bright coming through my door.
Sure.
And then my family was on lockdown because if Linda's doing a video, everybody stay in their rooms and stay away. Now they can walk through and no one can see them.
As I said, it reminds me of being in the forest with the Lord of the Rings. We're making the Lord of the Rings movie.
Okay, you guys, we'll talk to you next week. Have a happy Easter.
Happy, yes. All the best.
All right.